UFC 305 this weekend live from Perth, Australia. Okay, this one's very, very interesting. As everybody knows, the heated rivalry between Dricus Du Plessis and Israel Adesanya finally is going to get squashed. A ton of other great fights on the card. And by the way, if you guys want to watch UFC 305 with me, you can do that here at the W.A.D.E Concept live stream watch party. We're there live on Saturday. But if you guys want to make picks on these fights, if you want to get in on the action, you can do so using the sponsor of today's video and the live stream on Saturday, DraftKings. Real quick, guys, before you get into the video, I wanted to say a big thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook because I am teamed up with DraftKings for this weekend's UFC 305 card. And let me tell you right now, you're going to want to get in on this action because new customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. I personally am going to be betting on that main event for UFC 305, and I'm taking Israel Adesanya. That's right, potentially the W.A.D.E curse involved here. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm taking him to win the main event, as well as some other parlays and things that I'll be delving into as we get through the night. But like I said, if you guys want to get in on the action, use code W.A.D.E at DraftKings Sportsbook. And again, new customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and get in on the action. Because whether it's UFC or boxing or just your favorite sport, DraftKings is the place to be for all your sports betting needs. The crown is yours. And this weekend, when you use code WADE, so can the rewards. And once again, you must be of legal age to use DraftKings Sportsbook. Please gamble responsibly. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring this video. And now, let's get back into the action. So, let's get into this. Dricus Du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. Tale of the tape. Izzy is 35 years old. Very interesting. Once you hit that age, your career goes downhill further than my Celsius drinking problem. It's getting bad. I'm getting the shakes, and I'm not talking about the ones that your mother puts on me late at night. 35 usually means you're going downhill. You're on the back half of your career. Dricus, aged 30. 6'1", Izzy a little taller. Izzy with the 4-inch reach. Now, Izzy has 4 inches of reach on Dricus, but that's not the only 4 inches apparently he has on Dricus. Want to know what I mean? I'm going to show you the picture because I'm just flabbergasted that a grown man put this on his Twitter, but he did. I am only showing you this, and I don't even know if this is TOS, but Izzy put this on his Twitter. So you're telling me you're the real African champion, and then apparently went back through time to find a picture of Dricus where he could circle his actual penis and then compare it to his own penis. So Izzy put that out there. Again, obviously trolling Dricus over the comments that Dricus did make about him being the real, or becoming the real African champion, which I think he meant he is the only fighter fighting in Africa, training in Africa. So he is going to represent the continent, the country of South Africa better or in more ways than people like Israel Adesanya do. Now, I don't know how much he meant to take a shot. I mean, that seems pretty evident about what he meant and what he was saying. That's what sparked everything. And we all know where it's gone from then. But also, there's a UFC element to this, in which the UFC has completely absconded Francis Ngannou from, one, being their first fighter from Cameroon, two, being a part of its African champions by using clips like, well, this one, when Israel was talking about, again, the press conference, the countdown, pre-sale stuff, where he was talking about all the African champions, the real African champions. Take a look at this.
Bit of tension between yourself and Dricus. Can you just run through why that is?
There's always tension whenever you fight anyone. This is a fight at the end of the day. We're not playing chess, we're fighting. So there's always gonna be tension there. But then him discrediting me, Kamaru Usman, he came in the UFC, I knew who he was a little bit, but I didn't go, oh, who the f is this fake dude coming in? I just said, cool, there's another African in the UFC. That ticked me off a little bit, so that's what started this. But again, I'll finish it. And also, again, he tried to discredit the Three Kings and say that he's the real true African champion. And I was just, like, it's a weird mindset, bro. Like, he came in the UFC, I knew who he was a little bit, but I didn't go, oh, who the fuck's this fake dude coming in? I just said, cool, there's another African in the UFC. But then him discrediting me, Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman, that ticked me off a little bit. So that's what started this. But again, I'll finish it.
What they're trying to do, and this is something that the UFC and Dana White have continuously, in my opinion, done over the last year. The intent of what they're doing is the opposite of what it actually does, right? The Conor McGregor situation. The intent of giving Conor McGregor a fight or telling people he's not going to have one when he's actively out there saying he wants one, saying he wants to fight, it drives more fans away than builds anticipation. The intent of saying Jon Jones is not going to fight any of these guys except Stipe Miocic in Dana White's mind, because that's going to determine the actual #1 pound for pound and greatest heavyweight. Well, the actual thing that happens because of that is people don't want to watch Jon Jones fight, don't want to watch Stipe Miocic fight. And they don't consider them the best of all time because they consider it a duck of Tom Aspinall and Alex Pereira or whatever. This is the same kind of thing. This is a little off topic, but I just wanted to address it. The UFC constantly removing Francis Ngannou from pretty much everything that they do only brings more light to the fact that they're doing that and that Francis was there. But we have this major fight, and quite frankly, I think this fight is probably one of the biggest ones the UFC is going to do this year. I could see it being a very close fight, and I could also see it warranting a rematch depending on how the fight goes. But this is what I see. When I look at a guy like Dricus Du Plessis, I see a very, especially now that his nose is fixed, a very like a faster pressure fighter. When I say faster, I mean faster pace, not hand speed or anything. Pressure fighter that doesn't necessarily have the best technique and is a bit unorthodox in his striking, but looks to be in your face. I would say flashes of Sean Strickland when Sean is moving forward, but without the same level of technique, maybe even defensively, that Sean Strickland has. He's very much forward pressure, style be damned, cardio sometimes be damned, technique be damned. I'm going to be in your face. I'm going to throw some crazy unorthodox shit. And for the most part, I'm going to try to gas you out with pressure and then hurt you on top of gassing you out with pressure. Grapple you if I need to. He's got great grappling as well. I see him doing or trying to do the same thing to Israel Adesanya in this fight. I see him trying to use pressure, forward pace, to try to zap the gas tank and make Izzy uncomfortable. That's another thing. Israel Adesanya looked very uncomfortable in the Sean Strickland. Very uncomfortable. Like he couldn't get going, right? And it started early because of stuff like this, Sean eating up space. And by the way, Izzy's gotten very comfortable with fighting on his back foot and fighting right on this, I call it the warning track. I think Luke Thomas introduced that name here. But the black line that separates kind of the outer space of the octagon from the inner space, Izzy's gotten very comfortable fighting here because he's a great point fighter. Even off his back foot, he can tag you with stuff and keep distance for the most part. Problem is, in this fight, he wasn't really able to get a rhythm going and he wasn't able to stop Sean. Like even there, throws out what is usually an effective strike for him, doesn't land clean, and Sean's right back in his face. That's a checked kick as well from Izzy as Sean raises up the knee a la Alex Pereira. Now, again, Izzy's throwing a lot of kicks, trying to keep Sean off him, but Sean just continues inching forward, trapping him here on the cage. And by the way, yes, there's things here that, we go back, and there were moments where Izzy's coach was like, yo, head kick, and Sean's coach is like, they want the head kick. So it was like, there was a lot of gamesmanship. The point I'm trying to make is Izzy gets a little too comfortable trying to maintain range, and he loses rounds and potentially fights doing that same thing. Now, you could say that's because Izzy had cleaned out a lot of the division. Sure, he lost his belt to Pereira, but then won it back. He also beat Pereira off the back foot as a counter striker. But that's the thing is when you rely on just that counter striking and you're not heavy with your volume, or you're not pushing opponents back and you're subjecting yourself to being on the cage or close to it, trying to throw counter strikes one at a time. Volume punchers, people that are pressure fighters, unless you catch them clean, are going to be a problem for you. This is why I think Dricus is so confident in this fight with Izzy. He was able to do a lot of the same stuff to Robert Whittaker. Again, it's not the most polished striking that you're ever going to see from Dricus Du Plessis. It's not something that when you watch him fight, you go, wow, look at the X's and O's here. Or look at how stylistically he throws, very, very clean shots. You're not going to see that from him. And what's just crazy, because he is a natural kickboxer as well. But you see this, right? This is the Dustin Poirier deal. You jab and switch to throw the backhand into range, and all of a sudden we go orthodox for a sec. Taking up space while striking is a strength of Dricus Du Plessis. This is a problem. I don't know if Izzy's going to be able to take advantage of it and be on the front foot enough to do it, but this hands high, moving straight back, standing straight up, essentially just walking backward to the cage is crazy. And again, you see it here. Beautiful. This was beautiful work from Robert to start the fight. Standing straight up, head on the center line, hold that. The right hand behind it. I think this is probably the biggest issue for Dricus is defensive striking, not the greatest. When you're looking at an elite level striker like Whittaker, like Izzy, that can take advantage of these holes, especially when you see him staying and remaining in the pocket here. Boom, boom, and we're just kind of here. There's counters all day for a longer fighter like Izzy to be able to throw over the top of this. Whittaker didn't engage afterward. I do think Izzy's going to be a lot more, I don't want to say sharp, because he's always sharp, gung-ho about letting kicks and punches go. And I think he has to be to control the range. To control the range of what Dricus is going to do, with this pressure, with this unorthodox style. He has to be consistent, I think, with his kicking. I think he has to be consistent in combination. I know he's not been a great combination striker, but I do think it's got to be more than one. If you're Izzy, you can't sit back on that line, throw your teep kick, throw your jab, move your arms around, because at that point, you're going to see Dricus enter range. I know Izzy's got great eyes. I know he's got great counter striking, but you have to lead the dance in some ways, in my opinion. There's got to be a bit more volume. You do have to take a hard line stance too. If you want to move back, that's fine, but you got to plant that foot in the ground and say, you're not going to push me back any further. I like that Izzy is active with his feet. I like him circling, being able to reset and exchange again on his terms. I think all those things are good. Defensive grappling is going to be important for Israel Adesanya as well, in my opinion, because at some point, Dricus, I think, will initiate some takedowns. So defensive grappling, takedown defense is going to be very, very important if Dricus is able to get him to the cage. That's a big no-no. You don't want to be Izzy with your back on the cage and Dricus looking to take you down. Not going to be a great place to be. So while I do think Izzy's going to, put himself on the back foot, at least to start, he's got to have great eyes. He's got to be able to throw and utilize kicks to a degree that slows down the pressure and the pace, but he's got to be more active. That's the biggest thing with Izzy. Has to be more active. If not, I could easily see Dricus pressuring his way and winning rounds through pressure and then combination punching and then holding on the cage, rabbit punches, whatever, elbows, getting some work there, big takedown. Izzy gets up, elbows, knees to the body, that kind of thing I could see him doing. Or, again, just utilizing at range, just pushing Izzy into the cage and throwing one shot at a time, clinch, reset, elbow, whatever. That kind of stuff where it's just a waterfall of pressure and pace can interrupt a sniper like Izzy, a guy that does need to have a little bit of rhythm and, again, needs to land a big one to get that pressure to stop. So I could see Dricus doing that, and I could see him doing that all the way to a decision victory, honestly. I really could. But I could also see this turning into a war. I could see this becoming a bit of a back and forth where, again, there is some bad blood here. It is a bit personal, but the stakes to me are higher than just, some personal beef, whatever. This for Izzy is legacy. You know what I'm saying? This is legacy for him. If he is to beat Dricus and then get the win back versus Strickland, you're talking about a guy that can make claim to one of, if not the best middleweight ever at that point. Right? And depending on the Pereira, trilogy, if they ever do that. So the stakes are bigger than just, who's Africa's real deal. Maybe that means more to them, but I think that will have an effect on the fight as well, depending on, what kind of style we get from Izzy. What I see Izzy's path to victory being, like I said, you can't put yourself on the fence. You have to be more active with your hands and your feet. And I mean that as striking, and I also mean moving around the cage. He's got to be more active because the pressure's coming from Dricus. And again, you're going to have to hurt Dricus. You're going to have to alleviate that pressure somehow. And I think that's what combination striking, something that Izzy doesn't do a lot, but read, react is great. At some point, he's got to get a little nasty. If this is going to be any different from the last few fights for Izzy, he's got to be a little bit more nasty. In the clinch, combination punching, maybe taking that forward step and saying, I'm going to initiate offense. I can't just let everything come to him. I think there's going to have to be a happy medium there, but this is what I'm picking. Here is my prediction on the fight. So everybody get your betting odds ready to go against the W.A.D.E curse. I am taking Israel Adesanya here. I'm taking Israel Adesanya. I do think that him losing the belt again to Sean Strickland humbled him, and hopefully in a way that shows him he can't just coast to victories on his striking sniper ability. He has to be able to be the Israel Adesanya, at least a version of the Israel Adesanya that we saw coming up through the ranks at middleweight, the guy that did turn the tide on Alex Pereira. And I think he does it by knockout. I'm going to say round 3 stoppage for Israel Adesanya. He gets the belt back and once again shows whether he's cringy, whether he has weird things that he does online and also in his personal life, whatever, that motherfucker is one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived. I'm saying it here, saying it now. Israel Adesanya by stoppage. The comment section, you let me know who wins in the main event of UFC 305. Will it be Dricus Du Plessis and his tiny peep? Okay, that's just. Will it be DDP? Or will it be Israel Adesanya? Who's it going to be? Comment below, because I don't have those answers. But live this Saturday, UFC 305. Guess we'll find out.